So let's get to aspirations and something real, which is in a lot of Sikh psyche. And there's a good question on it. So let me just read it to you. It's from Jung Shant from Waterloo, Ontario. What should be the legal aspect of the Sikh Raj in context of Khalistan? People being arrested on support of Khalistan in India. Is Khalistan same as the Raj we are talking about?
Right. So I think this is a very valid and very real question. And let me present to you a perspective on it. First thing is, remember that anytime there's a movement, there is a unity. We talked about the word unity earlier. Unity of those who are working on that issue. So people who are working on Khalistan need to come together and articulate that what it is, articulate the movement. Then there are people in the movement, there are people outside the movement. And when you have that level of unity and clarity and resourcefulness, we will have most of the answers we are looking for. We had those answers, by the way. Whether we liked it or not, whether you subscribed it to or not, that's a secondary thing. Just like I mentioned, not everyone liked what Banda Singh, forget Banda Singh Bahadur only. Some people don't even like what Guru Gobind Singh or Guru Hargobind Patsha did because we are confused about what Guruship in Sikhi is. Similarly, after 84, there is a movement. Who can run away from this movement? This movement is very political. It is very bloody. There is a fight between the Indian state and the Sikhs who aspired for Khalistan. Now that movement, sometime between 91 and 93, because of extrajudicial killings, because of many other things, even after electoral politics, Punjab's elections where 9 of the 13 MPs won on the Khalistan ticket. This is very important to understand because people say it was a fringe movement. It was not. Let's talk about the facts. 9 of the 13 MPs of Punjab in late 80s won who were either militants themselves, they were serving sentence as militants, or their wives or spouses or fathers runs on those tickets. So it was not as black and white as sometimes we make it to be in some of the state narratives. So if there is a next element of that, people, because not every Sikh, remember, every Sikh does not have to agree to every movement. Those who are aspirational towards the next movement of whatever it needs to be called, some like to call it Khalistan, some are saying Punjab. This is why I mentioned what Baba Banda Singh Bahadur did was Baghel Singh didn't say, let's re-establish Banda Singh Bahadur's. He said, let's establish our version of it. Jassa Singh Ahluwalia did his next version. Maharaja Ranjit Singh did his next version. So we need to go through these iterations. And those who want to work towards the unjust state, wherever they live, and I'm going to challenge this to the viewers and the ones who ask this question. Like, are you ready to do this? Because the state where you're living in is also unjust. And there comes a point when it's too unjust. Then are you ready to topple that state? And by the way, this understanding existed in Sikh masses, and people who write about Sikhs also have this understandings. So for example, Amitabh Ghosh wrote a novel. There's the same man who wrote The Ghosts of Mrs. Gandhi about what happened in 1984, but he wrote a novel. And where he says there is ethnic Sikh in Myanmar, and he's a physics student. He leaves university and he starts fighting for independence there because he says university can wait, but people must be freed. And this is the Sikh aspiration, you see. So Sikh aspiration is to fight for establishing just societies everywhere. In case of Punjab, there is a historical significance because there was a kingdom of Punjab and Sikhs did establish indigenous rule there. And there have been and there continue to be human rights violations there and unfulfillment of promises since 1947. And those need to be resolved. And if they cannot be resolved with an unjust state, and then the Sikh doctrine of Raj is very clear that capturing political power to establish that Raj is also just. People who are establishing that, they need to become very clear about it. They need to create a unity and clarities and certainties in their movements. And not everyone will support it, but those who support it, they will fight for it.